Kimberly, if you want to turn on your sound and video. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
And where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you guys from Princess Anne, Maryland.
Woohoo! And how have you been enjoying all these amazing speakers today?
I have. They've been all over, just all over my my purpose-driven life. So I am just so excited. It's just been a blessing. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to introduce you, Kimberly, and then you can take it away. So Kimberly Anne Bell is a native of Salisbury, Maryland. She holds 2 degrees, one in human growth and development, which is in the field of psychology, and the other is in theology. She has served on the ministerial staff of the St. James AME Zion Church and completed 4 years of conference studies. She's a passionate speaker and the author of The Epitome of Kimmy. Accept and embrace it all. By sharing her story, she uses her past traumas to inspire others to never give up hope while raising awareness to the struggles that many women experience. Please welcome our next beautiful speaker for today, Kimberly Bell.
Thank you, Shala. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It is just a pleasure and an honor to be here and just to give you guys my insight on how I came up with Accept and Embrace It All. As you wonder and as you think about today's society, how we're still under the stigma of family secrets, what goes on in the house stays in the house, how we are still dealing with the facade, the mask that we wear, that we're ashamed or feel intimidated or fear to take off that mask and be real. So I have learned to be as transparent as I can be and live my truth and live my journey of the things that I have been through to come up with Accept and Embrace It All. I came up with Accept and Embrace It All as I started thinking about my foundation and coming to grips of accepting truly the foundation was broken. My foundation was not normal. It started off with my biological parents. They were broken. They were married. I had my older sister with me, but they decided, my biological mother encouraged or just allowed my father to, after a traumatic experience that my sister and I witnessed, to drop me off to his older sister, which is my paternal aunt, and her husband. And that witnessing that initial go-to, as far as this is something that is going to happen beyond my control, really changed my life that instant forever, looking at now who is going to protect me, who is going to accept me and love me when I know that these are 2 parents that I'm familiar with, that's supposed to love me, that's supposed to protect me, that's not supposed to separate me from my sister. So I ended up accepting that, one, I'm not responsible for their behavior or their action. I can only be responsible for my behavior and my action. I had to accept that that did happen, and it was sad, and it was in a moment of rejection and abandonment that was inside of me that kept me wondering for years, was something wrong with me? Why did no one come to, fight for me? Why my world changed without anyone taking the time to talk to me about it, to explain to me what was going on? Did I even matter? Did my voice even matter? So I had to accept and embrace that, yes, my voice did matter, but at that time, I had to go through some things to understand the power of love, the resilience, the essence of my determination and willpower to understand that this accepting had to come, and it had to be a realization for me. I remember and I recall one time being in church and having a speech from my adopted mom that when I get there that she's my mommy and my dad is my daddy, and people are nosy, and that's just what it is, and don't say anything. And I remember one particular Sunday, a lady came and put her finger up and asked me to come there real quietly. I knew this was around I was 7 or 8 years old, that it was a little secret here. And she let me know that she knew my grandmother. And I remember being allowed to stay with my maternal grandmother and grandfather a couple of nights and feeling a sense of belonging, because I knew that that was my mother's mom and that was my mother's father. So these are my grandparents. And she said to me, I know you're your grandmother and you are related to me and I love you. She put a little peppermint candy in my hand. And that was my sense of belonging, but I never shared with my adopted mom because I knew she would be upset. So that right there had took a turn in my life to be able to think back and say, once I'm able to share my journey and speak my truth, there's nothing going to stop me. I'm going to be courageous enough to make sure that my truth and my story inspires and help others. So I knew that even that turn in my life, and it's crazy because different times that I would go to church, I would still go to this lady secretly, and she would put a piece of peppermint candy in my hand. And I knew that this was a relative from my biological mother that I belonged to, that I was accepted as family. Now, even with being adopted by a family that clearly let me know at times that even though my looks was different, my features was different, that they love me. So that still put a delay and a damper in my acceptance of my self-worth, because I felt that I now am adopted in a family that they're saying I am loved, but I'm different. And I had to deal with that different take on life in general, how I viewed myself, how I felt about myself. And so I had to understand that my self-worth and my self-esteem was shaken and broken from that foundation. And it was my responsibility to accept the root of it and choose better for me. So even during the journey of my life, I dealt with a misdiagnosis. I wasn't tested accurately for PTSD. And even though it was PTSD, I was diagnosed as mild retardation, where statistics said I would never read or write. I learned to accept that that was a statistics and a wrong testing, but I learned to accept, but also embrace that had it not been for an educator that had a common emotion that I had, even at 7 and 8 years old. I stayed with her through all my years of elementary school. She was my resource teacher, that she had this hope. She had this hope in her eyes, the same hope that I had, and that she held my hand at one time when I said I didn't want to go to outside because I was bullied and I was taunted, because the kids, not all of them, they knew that I was in resource with her and they would make fun. And she held my hand, different color than me, but she had this hand and this touch that she gave me hope that I will not let go. I will make sure that you stay with me and you're safe and you'll be protected. So I accept as well as embraced that I had to go through that to feel the difference of the letdown, the bullying, but also someone that did not look like me, that had hope and had faith, and that was determined to allow me to see, as she would say, you are a special child. So I went through that, and also I was able to witness, as I accepted, that my adopted dad started the foundation of the spiritual connection with God. I just modeled what I had heard him doing. So in sixth grade, I said, I do not want to be different. I just want to learn. So that was my little sixth grade prayer to this God that I remember witnessing my adopted dad praying to. And I tested out. Seventh and eighth grade was the best academic years of my life because I was on honor roll. You wouldn't even know that I had a disability or was in resource 6 years. As I move on in my journey and as I'm getting adjusted, and I had to accept, it was an adjustment that was trauma on top of trauma, from being with a set of parents for 5 years and then moving and adjusting to an adopted family and their extended family for the duration. So I had to accept that while I'm in this journey and I'm trying to adjust periodically, I'll see my biological dad coming in that I'm thinking that he's just got amnesia, because as he's periodically coming in, I'm still in my hometown. It's nothing strange that my biological mother and him had kids after me. They divorced, they went on with their family, and I'm still here with this adopted family. And I'm thinking that he's got amnesia because periodically that he's coming in to see his sister, which is now my adopted mother, my maternal aunt, he's acting as if I'm her child, that all of a sudden I'm not his child. So I had to accept that even with this silence, that there's going to be a point in my life that I have to be vocal, and these emotions of sadness, of confusion is normal. I had to accept that because at one time I did not feel free to accept that this has actually is my truth and that this has actually happened to me. So I did accept and adjust it and embrace the adjustment that I did, only how I could adjust at that time without any therapy sessions, without any education, with still nobody giving me closure or any talk. I wasn't able to finally really see my birth certificate, which was definitely changed, until my first job. So I'm living in a life that one time I felt like it was controlled and switched by someone else without my say. So I had to accept that during my life decisions of justification and justice and this flight for fight, all came from a foundation that was broken. And I had to accept and embrace these anxiety, these depression, these suicidal thoughts, the suicidal thoughts that sometimes wanted to play into action was not working. The working was not helping. It was just masking the pain, because after a while, I got up and I still felt drained. I still felt all I'm doing, all I'm pouring into relationships, all I'm pouring into my children, overcompensating, giving my all. No one's giving back to me. It's nothing being reciprocated that I'm feeling, because I was not accepting my truth, that this is how I looked at relationships. And honestly, I looked at myself as a flaw, as just someone that was existing and that was doing the best they could with what they had, learning as I go. My first child was 15 years old, but prior to that, having a child at 15 years old, still adjusting into my adopted home, I had to encounter their extended family as they're trying to help them help different extended family. I'm still having this built of fear, because they have another family member that has mental health issues. That's clearly, they call him Crazy Joe, that he's allowed to stay in the house while they're going to work. And for hours, me and my other aunt is having to sit on a couch for hours and it was almost like we were made to sit there. And if we had got up one particular time, I got up because I had to go to the bathroom, and he lifted me up and he threw me up that I thought that I was going to hit the ceiling. And as I came down, even when they came home, I never shared it, because in the back of my mind is, if they trusted this man to come here, even though they know that he had mental health issues, if he found out that I told, what will happen the next time I'm left alone with him? So then this built of silence cried that my voice would not have, it didn't matter. I had to accept and embrace it, even though it did. I had to learn my way, my understanding of getting this anxiety and this fear and this depression out of my spirit, so that I could live free, so that I could live well. So even with that had happened prior, before the 15th pregnancy, 15-year-old getting pregnant, another family friend was invited in my home. And this was an extended family member that they were trying to assist his salvation through Christ. And I started getting molested through this family member service of their assistance for almost a year at 12 years old. And so even with that, I still kept that silent within because of the fear. Also the confusion, because this was groomed. He was telling me that he cared about me, he loved me, I was a special child. He manipulated my parents to let him know that he had my best interest at heart, that he was looking at spiritual movies with me and family movies, and that he would be responsible enough to put me to bed. But 2 or 3 days of the week, there were molestation, there were different things I call it the first foundation of sexuality to me, that very much confused me. But I also had to accept that happened, because I lived a life with guilt and shame of never telling my parents, and of fear of what would have happened if I had told. I also had to embrace that particular thing happened, that now I understand and I can take back control and power of my sexual identity. I now have a choice, and I have a right, and I have a voice to disclose how I feel at the moment. So this took my journey to a different level. And like I said, my first child, and I understand now how that came about because of the foundation of the first sexual experience was I got pregnant. And I vowed then, even with that, accepting that also changed my life, because I was told, no matter if I was 15, if I was 12 years old, what was told to me and what was embedded in my head is that I made a decision, I made a choice. And this choice, the outcome was that I have now a responsibility, a baby, and that I now am a woman, and I have to do what I have to do that women do for a child. So it changed my life, to the fact that I had to get grips of all that, and accepting that this is why I turned to so much of pouring so much of me to, I couldn't take a thought back or sense of pride back to say, even though I'm giving as a mother, there is also a time that I can step back and receive from my child, from my children. So I had to learn that acceptance and embrace had to come hand in hand. And it sure enough did when I chose me. I had to invest in me because I got tired. I had to choose, finally, getting tired of anxiety, of depression, of rejection, of abandonment issues, of not feeling like if I am not wanted, my life is over. And I don't know if someone understands that similar, that feeling, but I know that was an emotion that I struggled with. I needed to feel that I was wanted. I needed to feel that I was accepted. I needed to feel that I was validated. And when I got this and applied it to my life to accept and embrace it all, this is when I took the step to invest in me, to choose me, not my children, not my job, but each morning choose my happiness, choose how I want to live, choose if this life that I want to live, I want to be well, I want to be mentally stable, I want to be physically healthy, I want to be joyful, I want to be able to smile, and most of all, I want to be able to inspire, because there were times that I wanted to give up, there was times I wanted to give in, there was times I did not think that my life was worth living, even with 4 children by the age of 25. But it was the best freedom that I could give myself, and the best gift I could have given myself is choosing me, is investing in me, is protecting my spirituality, protecting my mentality, protecting my physical being, and loving me, loving my flaws, loving my features, loving when I'm natural, loving when I got my favorite lip gloss on my eyeshadow, because this is me. Loving that I'm not a morning person, but I do the best that I can. Any given time that I have to get up in the morning because it's a duty, because I got to get my little princess to school. I'm loving me. I'm investing in me. And guess what? When I started investing in me and accepting and embracing all of my journey, every detailed part, good and bad, understanding that I can embrace all the decisions that I made wasn't bad. All wasn't bad. I have beautiful memories of my adopted dad making sure that he taught me how to ride my bike, understanding my work ethics and all, but understanding also that it started with me. It started me choosing me. And I inspire you all to do the same. If I can do it, you can do it. And guess what? I found out I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I now have incorporated, I'm just a masterpiece under construction, doing the best I can by God.
Yes, Kimberly. Well, thank you so much for sharing your fearless story with us. Be sure to look in the chat. So much love sent to you from all the ladies watching today.
Oh,
and feel free to share in the chat how women can connect with you, Kimberly.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.